when you put on his best moments, he does things that no other back from his era could do.
Fred Taylor played in Jacksonville for 11 seasons and is the franchise's all-time leading rusher with over 11,000 yards. His unique skills and running style are what set him apart from the rest of the NFL.
Fred Taylor, he had pizzazz. He's a running back that had pizzazz. You look at his highlights and you go, whoa.
I mean, the things he could do, the ability to cut, the ability to make people miss, the ability to run away from people. I mean, he went 90 yards in a playoff game. I mean, it was unbelievable. He ran away from the entire team.
Nobody runs like Le'Veon Bell. Pretty much invented his own style that I think a lot of running backs are going to try to imitate. You see the patience. He's just looking, letting you get in your gap. Oh, you think you're in your gap? Oh, you peek the wrong way one time. Boom, he hits it.
A small hole can become a 40-yard run for him. He's that talented, and he's a big dude, so it's like, man, how does he get through these small holes? As a defensive player, you just want to be aggressive. You want to go get the ball. You see the ball carry, you want to go get it. But, man, if you shed too fast, he can punish you.
Star in Minnesota named Chuck Foreman annually approached the same output as both a runner and receiver. Foreman's graceful pirouettes transformed a stodgy, predictable Vikings attack into one of the league's flashiest, and his all-purpose skills led them to 3 Super Bowl appearances during the 1970s.
Remember, he did a lot of twisting. He'd do those full turns on a dime and come back.
In my eyes, he's the best running back in football. He explosive, great vision, great contact balance. When the ball's in his hands, anything's possible. It's capable of a touchdown.
Everything. Christian catch it out the backfield, slip through them little tiny holes. He's elusive, hard to tackle the open field, make you miss in the phone booth.
I mean, that speed after he gets the ball in his hands and the ability that he has is just second to none.
A guy like that who's able to play 2 positions extremely well, insane route running, a playmaker from the backfield.
When you think of the great running backs, you don't think of him because he was in a small market in St. Louis for the most part. At the end of the career with the Giants, big market, but he wasn't the same running back. He was very underrated.
In 1979, Otis Anderson set an NFL rookie rushing record with 1,605 yards. And he wasn't done.
He was a guy who could crank out 1,100-yard, 1,200-yard, 50-catch seasons like clockwork.
Number 16, Frank Gifford, was one of the most versatile players in NFL history. Upon joining the New York Giants in 1952, Gifford excelled on both sides of the ball. But when Vince Lombardi joined the coaching staff in 1954, he insisted that Gifford be a full-time member of the offense. Gifford's ability to run, throw, and catch earned him 7 Pro Bowl appearances and Hall of Fame enshrinement in 1977.
We needed Ricky's talent. Open field running, 4th and 1. Catching the ball.
Ricky Waters proved that he was a warrior. In the 3 years he was here, you look at that offense, it was him. He got off to a bad start, but nobody can deny that over 3 years he was one hell of a player.
Ricky Waters is an amazing football player.
After Philadelphia, Waters played 4 years in Seattle. He is one of only 2 players to run for 1,000 yards in a season for 3 different teams. He ended his career with over 10,000 rushing yards and nearly 15,000 yards from scrimmage.
As an offensive lineman, you always want to have a great running back, and we have the opportunity to have a guy like him behind you. You really want to go out there and perform for him. Against Cleveland, he had 500 yards during the season, 2 games, and he was just an unstoppable force. And the line and our coaching staff, we took pride in that. that we knew they were coming to stop him and stop us. You know what? At the end of the day, they weren't going to get it done.
2nd and 9. Bowler hands it off. Jamal Lewis running up the middle. Gets a block, 25-30. He's got a first down, 35, breaks a tackle. Midfield, got a blocker up front. He's at the 40. Near sideline, cuts it back, 30, 20. He's up. He's going all the way. Well, Tom, they said give Jamal the ball. First time he touches it, 82 yards to the house.
He has great vision. He's elusive. And then when you give him an opportunity, he can break it away.
Cuts inside, has the pylon, has the touchdown. Touchdown, LA.
Todd Gurley's number 1, hands down.
Todd, I think, to me, is like the definition of a running back.
Elusive back, hard to tackle. He can run over you, he can run by you.
He can also shake a little bit. He got some shakes in his game.
He's special when he gets the ball in his hands, and if you're a running back, that's a guy to look up to.
Right now, I have to say, in my eyes, he's been the best. He runs so powerful, great vision.
In 1985, our number 2 most underrated player achieved an NFL first with 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving in the same season. Yet in 13 years of eligibility, Craig has only been a Hall of Fame finalist once.
Lobs it to Craig, touchdown 49.
He was a blueprint of how a running back can do it in their West Coast offense.
Marshall Faulk followed the Roger Craig template.
He falls in that category of guys that can do so many things so well that you don't remember them for one particular thing.
In his first year in Buffalo, he became the first AFL player to rush for more than 1,000 yards.
The major reason behind Denver's vault into second place in the rushing department was the acquisition of powerful fullback Cookie Gilchrist from the Buffalo Bills. Although the 2-time ground-gaining champion got off to a slow start, he barely missed winning another title.
He could run the ball. I think he was better than Jimmy Brown, but he never got the credit.
Brown had power and finesse and mobility. I don't think Cookie had that finesse as far as making tacklers miss him, but Cookie had more power than Brown. Cookie would run right over a tackler.
All I remember is hitting his leg, and it was like I hit a tree trunk. It was the hardest thing I've ever hit. A footprint here, a footprint here. And I saw Walker run into the end zone for his first collegiate touchdown.
He drove right over our insurance, just driving and running with those big bodies.
He was by far and away the biggest star on a terrible football team. And he did the best he could for those first couple of years. And I will submit 86 and 87. I have never seen a running back take more punishment than Herschel took in those 2 years.
The guy was a video game. I don't think I could create the type of moves that Chris Johnson had if I were playing on my Xbox or PlayStation. He was unbelievable that year.
That looked like something out of a video game!
I would have taken him over Adrian Peterson if you asked me about the future in 2009.
There's a very short list. It's Dion, it's Darryl Green, and it's Chris Johnson, fastest players to ever play the game. Just so happens that Chris Johnson could also break tackles, do some spin moves, and burn you for 80 yards.
That's former NFL MVP Shaun Alexander, the one with over 9,400 rushing yards and 112 touchdowns.
Whoa, what a run by Shaun Alexander! Can you believe that? Shaun Alexander has been the man today.
What's the record you love the most?
I like the 5 touchdowns in one half.
That's sick.
The handoff, Alexander into the end zone. Touchdown, Seahawks! Slipping another tackle, and he's on his way to the 5 touchdown Seahawks.
These are the 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, those are the 5 touchdowns. So I came off to the sideline. I said, yeah, hey, keep this, I'll be back. And then I scored again. And they're like, what's going on here? I was like, I don't even know.
That's 5! Wow!
After the retirement of Jim Brown in 1966, Leroy Kelly finally got his chance to shine. Over the next 7 seasons, Kelly led Cleveland in rushing and was the focal point of the Browns' offense. During his era, no back exploded from his stance or hit the hole faster than Kelly. He possessed the agility to fake out would-be tacklers and the power to blast through defenders at the goal line. And Kelly retired with over 7,000 career rushing yards.
For 2 years, the only ball-carrying Kelly did for Cleveland was returning kicks. Then, Jim Brown retired. Leroy took his place and became a star.
Ever wonder who had the most productive run in NFL history? Something to the tune of more than 6,500 yards and 61 touchdowns in an epic 3-year span? It wasn't Walter Payton, or Barry Sanders, or even LaDainian Tomlinson. The most productive stretch in league history belongs to some dude who rode the pine in Baltimore. The following season, injuries derailed him again, opening the way for Larry Johnson. Yet if you look at Holmes' run from 2001 to 2003, the numbers are mind-blowing. This came right as fantasy football was exploding, and Holmes was the guy everybody wanted. To give you an idea, compare Priest's window with the best 3-year stretch of Adrian Peterson's career, who is widely considered today's top running back. It's not close. Despite the fact this Canton-esque performance came after Y2K, people have already forgotten about Holmes.
There's nothing Tiki Barber could not do. He was an outstanding runner between the tackles. He could catch the ball. He could get to the outside. He had what I call juke ability to make guys miss.
Tiki is the most productive running back in one of the most storied franchises' histories. He was a 10,000-yard rusher. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler. Probably one of the best players in the NFL in 2004, 2005, 2006. If those are your qualifications for the Hall of Fame, yes, Tiki Barber's a Hall of Famer.
Tiki currently holds the Giants' rushing records for most yards in franchise history, most yards in a game, and has the top 3 rushing seasons for any player that wore Big Blue.
Only one they got is Tiki. We got to stop Tiki up front.
I'd always heard so much about him as the person and breaking the color barrier and all those things. And then I got to watch the tape. And the tape is so stunning that it is almost hard to describe. I mean, it looks like somebody messed up and put a guard or a tackle in the backfield. I mean, that's really what he looked like. And even the number was 76. So you go, what is this, a trick play? Something Bill would pull out. And then they hand him the football. And you talking about guys making business decisions. There were people finding a reason to not go tackle this big guy. He is truly one of the superstars of the history of the game.
One look at Larry Csonka's nose says everything one needs to know about how he played the game. Csonka scratched and clawed for every yard he gained, helping lead the Dolphins to consecutive world championships. He was named the most valuable player of Super Bowl VIII after rushing for 145 bruising yards and a pair of touchdowns on 33 carries. The perfect signature performance for a player who bulldozed his way right into the Hall of Fame.
However, the player who has the highest career yards per carry average ever for a running back at 5.49 is not in Canton yet.
In Pittsburgh, we call it contact balance, meaning regardless on how hard or your anticipation on you hitting this guy, they're able to bounce off a hit. Jamal Charles is one of those guys. And he's super fast, super smooth, can stick his foot in the ground and plant in a whole different direction. So every time you see Jamal Charles coming in front of your face and you trying to make that tackle, only thing you're thinking in your head is, if I miss this tackle when I go to the sideline, my teammates going to be looking at me.
One of only 3 men to win an Olympic medal and be named an All-Pro during his career, Ollie Madsen was an electrifying running back for 14 seasons. In a stunning move, he was dealt to the Los Angeles Rams. The Cardinals acquired 9 players from the Rams for Madsen.
I've always said this in my lifetime, is that I want to be the greatest, if not the greatest, one of the greatest. And that's what I worked at all the time.
Ollie Madsen will always be remembered for his blazing speed. Nicknamed Wham Bam by his teammates, Steve Van Buren used his punishing running style to become the NFL's premier ball carrier of the 1940s. Leading the league in rushing 4 times, Van Buren ran over the competition. In 1947, he became the second running back in NFL history to rush for more than 1,000 yards in a season. With Van Buren, the Eagles dominated the NFL, winning 3 division crowns and 2 NFL championships. With more than 11,000 career rushing yards, John Riggins is one of football's greatest runners. Yet, he is remembered more for who he was than what he accomplished.
John Riggins gave the National Football League personality, which a lot of people are trying to take away from the game today. John managed to stay within the bounds of society, got close to the edge, but stayed within them, and yet still had a personality that everybody could talk about.
There's the snap, hand to Riggins, good hold, he's got the first down to the 40, he's gone, the 35, the 30, the 20, he's gone, he's gone, touchdown, Washington Redskins!
He plays the game in a way that can be respected from 1960 to 2060. Old school, hard-nosed, gritty, searching for contact, searching for conflict. He's a monster out there, and he's mean.
His nickname's Beast Mode. Yeah, I mean, it's totally true.
Man, this guy is explosive, and he runs with attitude. So he's running like every play is his last play.
Marshawn Lynch with a 77-yard bolt.
He's a hard-nosed guy. He's going to give you everything he has each and every snap. He has great vision. He's elusive, speed, power. There's not too many backs that have all of those attributes.
You can't tackle him. You can't tackle him.
There's another guy from Miami who's run for more than 15,000 yards, not miles. And if you're not impressed, you should be. Because when he runs, it's with a football in his hand and a bunch of tacklers trying to take him to the ground. His name is Frank Gore. He's 37 years old.
And here's Frank Gore running in the Moochie Bowl. The inconvenient truth.
The real truth is that nickname, like so many of the tacklers Frank faced in his career,
Breaks a tackle, breaks another. Breaks one tackle, breaks another.
just didn't stick.
Franco's right, got a hold of the 45, breaking tackles 40, down near side 30, cuts back, Gore still going.
His vision, his moves, he's a nightmare. I remember personally us playing against the Eagles. He jumped in the hole, he seen me in the hole, he stiffed on me, jumped back out the hole, and ran for 10 yards. The first guy's always gonna miss, the second guy's gonna miss, and possibly the third guy's gonna miss, so all 11 guys gotta run to the football. So sometimes all 11 guys miss. He's like a Barry Sanders. He's all that in one.
I ain't seen nobody pull moves like that since Barry. You know, that's a hot thing to say. I'm not saying he up there, but I've said he got some moves, man, and he'll really leave you in the dirt.
1972 was also the year the Steelers drafted a fullback from nearby Penn State. It didn't take Franco Harris very long to impress his new teammates.
We played a game, I think it was in Atlanta. It's a preseason game. And Franco runs up to the line, looked like he stops and maybe scratches his head. What am I going to do now? And all of a sudden he goes, takes off. And I said, gee, we got one. We got one.
Harris rushed for over 1,000 yards in his rookie year, leading the Steelers to the playoffs for the first time in their 4 seasons under Chuck Noll.
In his first football was a 40-yard touchdown run. What else would you expect from a player who was known simply as the King? Number 39 was a marvel in the open field and a brilliant kick returner. McElhenny's style relied on moves rather than muscle and made him one of the most exciting players of his time.
And he had a long stride and breakaway speed. He had style.
In the 1950s and early 60s, Hugh McElhenny was to pro football what Elvis Presley was to rock and roll. Both were known as the King, and each knew how to shake, rattle, and roll.
Hugh McElhenny remained atop his throne as the king of football's broken field runner.
Watching him run the football was almost like a kid's game, because he'd get the ball in the open field and there was just no telling where he was going to go with it.
Okay, so his nickname didn't scare everyone, but his size did. 260 pounds on a 5'10" frame will do that.
I don't care what his listed weight was. At times, he was 20 pounds over that listed weight.
Bettis was just impossible to tackle.
The bus shakes him off like flies.
Obviously, he's a huge guy, but just how thick he was through the midsection, through his legs, it's like, he used himself like a battering ram, and no one could get their arms around him.
When they get a load of me.
He's the type of guy that will run you over and say, good hit. So as a 195-pound free safety, you just kind of didn't want to see that guy get past the linebackers.
You saw Jerome Bettis running at you with a full head of steam. Would you want to tackle him?
And a bus leaves clean marks all over his spine.
No, who would want to tackle him? You don't get paid enough for that.
An explosive runner in the 1950s, Joe Perry was a member of the 49ers' famed $1 million backfield. His combination of speed and quickness earned him the nickname Joe the Jet. In 1953 and 54, he rushed for over 1,000 yards, thus becoming the first man in NFL history to rush for over 1,000 yards in consecutive seasons. At the time of his retirement in 1963, Joe was the NFL's second leading all-time rusher and still holds the 49ers' career rushing record.
Tony had moves, so he made a lot of big plays, but he had exceptional speed. I mean, it wasn't just running outside and run away from people. He was very tough inside. But everybody said he wasn't big enough. And what are they talking about? The guy's got good size. Tony could run inside with the speed he had at the outside. He could do everything.
Before Tony Dorsett arrived, the Cowboys had a dynamic offense. Yet they lacked an explosive runner to complement Pro Bowl quarterback Roger Staubach.
We kind of went 3 years after Calvin Hill and Dwayne Thomas with, I might have been the leading rusher. Then we got Tony in 77, and man, it was like a godsend.
I was recruited as a defensive back and then moved to fullback, and I don't think you can pretend to be tough. Either you are or you're not. I always felt like football was like the greatest laboratory in the world. You could really examine who you are and find out whether you have the quit in you, whether you have the fight in you.
Over 16 years with the Raiders and Chiefs, Marcus Allen often demonstrated his toughness at the goal line. When he retired, Allen's 145 touchdowns were the most of any running back in NFL history. But statistical accomplishments are only a part of his greatness.
Here's a guy who's going to the Hall of Fame, who's leading the league in rushing, who's, doing all these things, and a lot of people don't give him enough credit about his speed. When he breaks, he's almost gone 90% of the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, 94 yards, touchdown, Titans! He is the baddest man in the NFL!
And the thing that makes Derrick Henry so great is that he doesn't have one or two runs that are amazing. He has like 10 plus runs that might be over 30 yards, 40 yards. You don't see guys who can move how he moves at his size.
You can really hit him in between the tackles, but once he get on the edge, that's what makes him so dangerous. He has the speed to get the corner, so you don't know if he's going to use his speed, or you don't know if he's going to run you over.
You feel like you go low, and go over you.
I'll say Tom Flores number 1, Terrell Davis number 2. You cannot tell the story of the 1990s without talking about Terrell Davis.
Here goes Terrell Davis, big hole, TD, still on his feet, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown.
You got to be really, really, really special to be in the Hall of Fame. Terrell Davis, for the years he played, was special.
And he is a fabulous player. And yeah, you could throw a guy into that Denver offense and get a good performance, but when it was Clinton Portis, it was a great performance. And when it was Terrell Davis, it was a transcendent, historic performance.
What a run by Terrell Davis! How many tackles did he break on that baby? Elway, handoff, Davis into the end zone, touchdown!
He has quickness in the hole. He's been durable, and he can make guys miss.
He doesn't have breakaway speed. We tease him. We call him a caught from behind Curtis, because if he seems to get out in the open field, somebody always catches him.
He's not flashy. He's not a flashy back. His big runs are in a 25-yard increments. He's not going to break the 60, 70-yard big run.
You know, I've been around speed a long time. He doesn't have speed, but what he's got is stamina and endurance. And this guy finishes the season stronger than what he starts it at.
A lot of other running backs who have more ability than I have, they're stronger, they're faster, they're bigger. Yet, I feel that I win with my heart.
You know, right away, I can just tell that, you know, the type of work ethic that he had, and then he had the Miami swagger with him. He had a very unique look with the dreads and the gold teeth, but that's not what jumped out to me. What jumped out to me was his confidence. He didn't say a lot, but the way he carried himself, the way he went about his business in the weight room, on the field, you saw early this guy was a little bit different.
He has great change of direction, innate skills and instinct. He has power. Edgerrin James is as complete a running back as we've seen come into this league in quite some time.
You know, he was on a mission. Maybe that's how he played all his life, where he was like that in Miami, but when he came, he was serious.
I'm not going to break down. I'm not going to come out the game. I'm going to give it to you. First down, second down, third down.
No trouble there. He powered his way in.
Thurman Thomas is the Bills' all-time leading rusher. He is the all-time leading rusher at Oklahoma State.
It really wasn't in it. My mindset was that nobody could stop me.
Here is Thomas. What a great move.
I mean, there's a reason why I went to Pro Bowls. I was named All-Pro 3 years. One, the most valuable player in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, in the College Football Hall of Fame. Because when I stepped out on that football field, I wanted to be the best football player on the field, period.
The guy that came in with the torn up knee, expectations were not great, who proved, you know, the whole football world wrong. But he's one of the greatest all time.
Taylor was unbelievable. He was a fierce, fierce competitor.
Well, I didn't try to do anything. It's when you're out there, it's a matter of, you know, the survival of the fittest.
Usually a running back breaks the line of scrimmage and looks for the end zone. Jimmy looked for the first safety he could run over.
I just tried to play at a very high level of intensity and play to my potential.
He liked to hit people. He's got a body that was built for hitting people. You know, there'd be a nice hole here. He'd rather bounce off of this guy and then hit the hole. You know, he liked to punish people.
I just tried to play to my maximum ability, and I played very, very aggressive, and I played within the bounds of the rules of the game.
And then when anybody tackled him, it was an insult.
Earl Campbell was a rare combination of speed, power, and determination. Like a wrecking ball, Campbell proved what an irresistible force can do to an immovable object. Campbell won 3 consecutive rushing titles and became only the 4th person officially designated as a Texas legend.
When he left University of Texas, he came on the scene. He was a star. He was great from day one.
The 5'11", 232-pound Earl Campbell was a remarkably fast starter. In his first 3 seasons, Campbell won Rookie of the Year, a league MVP, and 3 rushing titles.
I'm a speed guy, so I respect speed, and Lenny always had that burst away from people.
From 1956 to 1967, Lenny Moore put the big play in the NFL's best offense. As a combination flanker running back, number 24 could break long runs, and he could catch deep balls as well. While dressed in the Colts blue and white, Moore earned 6 trips to the Pro Bowl and helped Baltimore win back-to-back league titles in 1958 and 1959. He was one of the best all-around players in NFL history.
Every time Lenny Moore was given the ball, it was the beginning of a unique adventure, a classic in cleats.
He was very elusive. Unlike, let's say, Jim Brown, who was, he carried about 14 people on his back. When he ran, it was like watching one person turn into 2 people.
In 1965, the Kansas Comet had the 49ers seeing double when he blazed across a rain-soaked Wrigley Field, scoring 6 touchdowns to tie the NFL single-game record.
Give me 18 inches of daylight. That's all I need. I never went on a practice field and worked on faking left, going right, or turning around, that type of thing. Many times there'd be a fella coming from my blind side, and no way I could see him, but I could feel him. There's times that I would make a move, and I couldn't explain it, but it's a God-given instinct to do things like that.
I think people have completely overlooked the fact now that he was clearly the best running back of the 70s. So if you sort of realize that he's the best running back at a time when the most important part of the offensive game is running the football, I think you could easily argue that O.J. Simpson is the most valuable player of the 70s for the entire league. Every time he ran the ball, it was almost like the Bills' equivalent of throwing the ball deep. It might not work, but if you made a mistake, they would score.
The playoffs eluded Simpson in 10 of his 11 seasons. Jim Brown's single-season rushing record did not. In 1973, playing a 14-game season, Simpson sprinted for a staggering 2,003 yards.
He's a great player, great athlete. He just absolutely made guys look silly, time after time after time.
Tomlinson led the NFL by rushing for 12,490 yards in the 2000s.
Pulling away, what a run! A cut that only few have ever been able to make. The great one, LaDainian Tomlinson.
In the history of the NFL, few have been better near the goal line than Tomlinson.
Seeing how he attacks the end zone and how he attacks the defense when he gets the ball in his hands, it's pretty special. He's one of those guys that he just has a nose for the end zone. Anybody who can score 27, 28 touchdowns in 1 year, that's greatness.
In 2006, he set the NFL record with 31 touchdowns in a season.
Eric Dickerson was really a freak of nature. Rarely rarely did you see a guy with that size that had the tremendous speed. You usually have one or the other. Some guys are fast, but they can't make moves. They don't know how to cut it. Eric could do all that.
At running back, number 29, Eric Dickerson.
With the second overall pick in the 1983 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams selected Eric Dickerson. In his first 4 years in the NFL, he scored 57 touchdowns and ran for nearly 7,000 yards.
He didn't have the bulging biceps. He wasn't a workout fiend from the standpoint of lifting weights. And he didn't necessarily look the part. So many people would come up to me and said, you know, who's that sitting in Marshall Faulk's locker? We all would just get smiles on our face and we're like, that's Marshall Faulk. But inside of that exterior that maybe didn't look the part was the greatest football player that you would probably ever play with. There was not anything that he did that he didn't do well. That's what I think made Marshall Faulk great. Everything he was going to do, he was going to do it the best.
Over a 12-year career with the Colts and Rams, Marshall Faulk became the only running back in NFL history to rush for more than 12,000 yards and have more than 6,000 yards receiving. When he retired, his 136 touchdowns were fourth on the all-time list.
He is the best running back I remember coming in the league for a long time.
I have not seen that kind of speed, that kind of size, that kind of strength in one running back, maybe ever in my lifetime.
He ended up having 348 carries, which was the second most of his career. And then we find out after the season, of course, that he did that with a sports hernia. So on top of coming back miraculously from major knee surgery, he finished the season brilliantly with a sports hernia.
Overcome adversity.
I really think the man is made partly out of adamantium.
This guy should go to the Smithsonian. They got to study him. How can he do that? That's incredible to me.
In 2012, Adrian Peterson unleashed an MVP season. He topped the 2,000-yard mark with over 6 yards per carry and fell just shy of a single-season rushing record.
As a runner, I can do a lot of things. I can run you over. I can shake you down. I can run around you. I can go through you if I had to.
Handoff, Smith up the middle, breaks a tackle. Emmitt Smith breaking a beheading tackle. Touchdown, Cowboy.
I was amazed at what he could do from a vision standpoint and a balance standpoint. Whether it's a hand or something that gets down and props him back up, or sometimes he doesn't even get his hand down, but he can contort his body in a way where he regains his balance and is up and running.
He's going to score. Oh, absolutely ridiculous.
And I don't think he ever got enough credit for his toughness. He was a tough runner. He didn't run out of bounds. For Emmitt to walk into the NFL as a rookie and say, when I leave this game, I'm going to be the NFL's all-time leading rusher.
It was Peyton's sheer will that truly defined him.
We were warriors, and he was a great warrior. If a guy runs out of bounds because a cornerback is coming up to hit him, that's not my kind of guy. Walter was definitely one of them because he was a powerful man. Give me the heart of Walter Payton. There's never been a greater heart.
Sweetness knew toughness and what it took to reach the mountaintop. Finally, after 13 seasons, he stood at the brink of the all-time rushing summit. Waiting for him was the great Jim Brown.
Well, there's some individuals that if they broke a record and they did it the wrong way, they wouldn't hear from me. But the way that he was, his attitude, his ability, I have all the admiration in the world.
Probably the only running back I would pay
to see play.
Sometimes you just got to look to the heavens and say, wow. Oh, my gosh, what a run.
You almost had to stop what you were doing just to see what Bear's going to do because you know he was going to do something amazing.
I tried to perfect the skill of trying to make people miss.
In a lot of plays where I'm doing something impulsive, I had to turn off the brain in certain ways and just, react.
Each of Barry Sanders' 10 seasons was a masterpiece. He rushed for at least 1,100 yards every year he played, and 6 times was a first-team All-Pro. Barry's career average of 100 rushing yards per game is second all-time, only to Jim Brown's 104. But statistics aren't how fans remember Sanders. Like any great artist, Barry's style defined his craft.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. The pro game in the pop age had a number of superstars, but only one Superman, and he was Jim Brown.
Jim thought on Sundays, and these are his words, that he was a god, that nobody could hurt him, nobody could touch him, nobody was better. And he proved it every Sunday. He always shocked everybody, I think, how fast he was. And then you tack onto that 225 pounds and mean, tough runner.
In 9 record-setting seasons, Jim Brown led the league in rushing 8 times. Brown was a 3-time MVP. He is the only runner ever to average over 100 yards per game and over 5 yards per carry for a career.